You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back to round 3 of this 5th weekly for the ETS Season 5. I am Sir Rhino, and with me in the booth is Calimdir.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to attempt to top the crazy match from last round with a matchup of two 2-0 decks here. We've got NotoriousGHP on Fire Time Justice Control list against LettersWords, who's on Primal Praxis midrange. So let's break these down, Calimdir.
Yeah, so these are two decks that I think are designed for tournament play. They're these sort of more greedy 3-faction lists, but they have a lot of options, and they're very good against like certain meta calls. Like I think the Elysian Fire deck, the Fire Time Primal deck, is very good in like the Praxis mirrors, just because it has some bigger units than Surso, which so has all the like late game that the Praxis decks bring, but it has just better attackers for attacking through board stalls. And the Fire Time Justice list is kind of similar. It's got like a lot of the late game of the Praxis, but with Rise to the Challenge for a little more toolboxiness, and Harsh Rules to sort of break board stalls and then just play all your Heart of the Vaults to get back on the board and get card advantage.
Yeah, so these are both pretty greedy in their power bases, but thanks to cards like Amber Acolyte and Find the Way, will find a way to cast their spells, or at least they hope to do that. Going into this matchup, though, who do you think has the edge here? Is it the bigger, greedier, harsh rulier FTJ control, or do you think the attempting to be more aggressive approach with Primal Praxis is the way to go?
So I think the lists are like fairly similar in speed. Like if everyone plays their cards out, I think the Justice list has a little bit better of a chance, just because Ikaria is very good if he can rise for that, and that'll just end the game really quickly. And the Harsh Rules will stabilize the board pretty well against what LettersWords is trying to do. But I think it's really going to come down to who like gets the power and influence they want on time and gets the better curve, just because this is so like outside of Harsh Rule, it's going to come down a lot to tempo, just because these decks are doing very similar things.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, looks like this match is underway, and LettersWords will probably be the first to get something on the board here with a False Prince potentially on this turn, especially with the second False Prince in tow. But NotoriousGHP will have the first torch at least to answer one of these.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the number of seats and banners in each list. They are not being particularly greedy on that front. They're definitely running a ton of dual influence seats and banners to try and just cast their cards, not necessarily on time. So I think we're actually going to have a closer game than I thought, just because the influence is going to be there for them.
Yep, both players knowing that their decks are centered around time, playing more time sigils than the other sigils, because time is how you get your fixing. Plus, you've got triple time cost, double time cost cards up and down the way, and we see one of those double time cost cards here in Sandstorm Titan. Meanwhile, Amber Acolyte hooking up some more power here, potentially putting more on the board, but I think LettersWords, wisely respecting the harsh rule that can come out of NotoriousGHP's deck.
Yeah, so this has been mostly just playing power and passing for all this game. But Sandstorm Titan has done a ton of damage here, just because NotoriousGHP is, running several 6+ drops and a bunch of dual lands is really coming back to bite him.
LettersWords looks to just elect to hold initiative to the sands. I guess if a harsh rule comes down here, it'll still want the power post rule. Of course, NotoriousGHP does not have that, and instead has a Shatterglass Mage, which will also not be able to hit this obelisk because LettersWords didn't cast that this turn. And LettersWords not having the influence to cast this Heart of the Vault here has some other things to think about. Maybe still getting down the obelisk, maybe initiating something. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so it's going to be this obelisk plus Xenon initiation is going to allow LettersWords to be able to deal with the first Heart of the Vault, because these Heart of the Vaults are going to do a lot of work on this board. Notorious is like in a really rough spot, but Heart of the Vault will block. It's just that I don't know the
Yeah.
Xena initiate or initiation plus obelisk is. I'm not sure how Notorious GHP is going to get through this outside of a harsh
Right.
rule.
Yeah, I would say the biggest part of Notorious GHP playing Shatterglass Mage here isn't just that he got a blocker, but it tells LettersWords that his opponent does not have a harsh rule. If you have a harsh rule, you're clearing out 2 units plus a Sandstorm playing with that harsh rule and trying to stabilize. So LettersWords knows the coast is clear, but also isn't really motivated to put anything else into play. And finds a Seek Power and a Heart of the Vault on top of the deck.
Yeah, this is looking pretty bad for Notorious GHP, but
Yeah,
the game is actually
that's lethal.
closer. No, he's dead.
Oh, it's not.
Got hard.
There's no fire sigils for LettersWords to find here.
Whoa.
He only plays 2 fire sigils, and those were both of his sources of fire this game. He cannot cast Heart of the Vault for lethal here.
Yeah, and I don't think he could even afford to play more than 2 fire sigils in this heavy influence deck. So it's just
Wow.
unfortunate for him that he got the 2 fire sigils and not any of the dual influence cards. Okay,
Yeah,
so outside of him being at 1 health, this game is actually kind of closer than it looks, just because Notorious GHP has the better late game.
Yeah, now it's really close. I mean, you know LettersWords isn't going to draw a fire source that turn because he's drawing the uncastable Heart of the Vault. And now he's just going to use Xena Initiation, clean up maybe the Diogo just so it doesn't activate, but no, opts to kill one of the 6/6s, get down an Initiate just because, hey, it's a lethal threat and is out of this Heart of the Vault range that Notorious GHP drew. But now it's just LettersWords hoping he finds fire source before somehow he either dies or Notorious GHP.
Wow, yeah. So he
Calibre
he
Healer.
has 2 Calibre Healers in his deck, and he drew 1.
Yeah, I was just about to say before he finds the Calibre Healer, and right on time it shows up. Speaking of right on time, the Seed of Impulse. Oh no, not even double Heart of the Vault will put him into lethal range now. Unless, of course, nothing blocks here. So now LettersWords has to decide, does he hit a unit? Does he go face anyways?
Yeah, now he just has to extend. He has to extend into a potential harsh rule that could come down at any point from GHP if LettersWords really starts taking the board again. And LettersWords not running very much burn in his deck. Because he's in the he's playing primal, so he can't run Flame Blast and things like that. He just has the torches and the Diogo ultimate. Wow, that's gonna change the game.
In the meantime, though, another Heart of the Vault off the top means if he had pointed the first one at face, he would have had lethal in hand. It's notable that LettersWords also has Torch in his deck, so like pointing the burn at face could also make Torch a live out. But instead, opting to try and clear out the board. But now the 6/9 is in his way. He can't really finish that off.
I mean, attacking is still pretty good for him. Like the worst that happens is a double block, and Notorious GHP would kill himself if he did that. So it's still very good attacks for LettersWords here.
Yeah, but he's opting not to. And as you mentioned, like Notorious GHP has harsh rules lurking somewhere in the list and also double damage charge units coming out. Temple Scribe going to dig deeper, but Seek Power, not exactly what you.
Yeah, I think the longer this game goes on, the more I favor GHP's chances. Although Ikaria doesn't really do much here, just because it just trades with a Titan or a Heart. I mean, it will have double damage, but
yeah, and Ikaria is not at her happiest when there is 8 Titans between both lists. LettersWords deciding to play this 8/8 pre-combat instead of maybe opting to swing in first and finish off the 6/9. But this way he has 4 lethal units plus the 3/3 attacker. I mean, I would attack with the Initiate here. If it gets blocked, like the only reason to not swing with Initiate is if you think your opponent has a Desert Marshal. I don't know. I don't know why you're passing up on 3 damage here.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. This is GSP just hasn't drawn. He's drawn too much power after stabilizing, and LettersWords is just doing what Praxis and Allegiant do, and just playing more units. That's the power part of the vault.
Well, GHP could rise for a Shatterglass Mage. No, he only had 1 in his deck. Could get a charging double damage Heart of the Vault, which might reduce the cost of something else.
Yeah, and it kills Initiate, but it's still pretty rough. I think he's just dead, right?
It looks to be that way, especially with the Rakano banner. So, yep, scoops it up here. And in the battle of time mid-range decks, the one with the bigger units often wins. And, yeah, the Xenon Obelisk kind of making a world of difference there.
Yeah, so Harsh Rule, I mentioned it being like better and making GHP favorite in the late game, but ultimately when you're both trying to just get to the late game and then play a bunch of big units on top, Harsh Rules didn't ever get drawn, but having less threats in your deck maybe actually makes you less favored, so potentially LettersWords is more favored there.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part of this whole game was that LettersWords just had the faster start, right? The double False Prince opener, only one torch for that, followed up by some Sandstorm Titans, and GHP didn't cast anything really until a 5-3. Like, that just wasn't.
Yeah.
He was just so far behind at that point. It did an admirable job of trying to catch back up, but he was just so low on life, it forced him to make some bad blocks.
Yeah, and even though he was able to, stabilize a little bit, it's just what these two decks do. What this whole new practice archetype and what this Time Fire Primal version does is it just plays all these big units, and then Heart of the Vault gives these giant mid-range decks just so much card advantage in the late game that it doesn't matter. They're gonna keep playing threats.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Like, as you mentioned with like these Harsh Rule strategies is. Yeah, you might get a 3-for-1 with Harsh Rule, and then they just warp in a Heart of the Vault and get their own 3-for-1 back, and they just keep rolling with threats as just between all the warps and stuff. So anyway, the players are still sideboarding. What do you expect to come in from? Let's start on LettersWords side with this kind of aggressively tilted deck. The card that stands out here to me is Crystallize.
Yeah, absolutely Crystallize. I don't think Shatterglass Mage doesn't hit anything at all other than Runehammer, I believe. I'm not sure. And Runehammer's just not good in a matchup where everything has a million health. And Obelisk. So, I think, okay, Sand Viper also stands out to me just because it blocks everything that GHP would play, but I think he just wants to get aggressive.
Yeah, and we can already see as the players are sideboarding that those Crystallizes did come in. The Sand Vipers coming in as well, just getting some nasty, annoying, deadly units there that, especially once coupled with like an Obelisk, can put on a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and Xenon Initiation.
Yeah. Yeah, the Xenon Initiation part's cute. It's not quite as nice if the Viper itself is also dying in the transaction, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? So we'll see now as the players get back into it what else will come out of these decks. Wouldn't be shocked to see Leave a Witness come in for GHP and maybe just shave the Harsh Rules or something like that.
Yeah, he definitely cut out the Harsh Rules. I saw him cut out the Harsh Rules, but I didn't see if he brought in Leave a Witness. I know he brought in the Reality Wardens, which I think are a good include here.
So we're still deciding whether or not to keep or maul. Ends up keeping it a little light on the time influence, but has the Amber Acolyte and has, as you mentioned, the Snake plus Initiation combo here. So we'll see if that works out.
He's also got the sweet Initiation plus False Prince combo. That's the real combo.
Killer Frogs might not be quite what the doctor ordered, but this Seed of Wisdom certainly a nice rip.
Yeah, so I feel like on GHP's end, he's kind of doing the same thing. He's just got no real plays until, okay, there's the Leave a Witness. He's got no real plays till this Iron Thorn. So we might end up in a very similar situation.
Yeah, and this is where False Prince is going to kind of flex its muscles, where it's not so good against, Torch or Vera's Favor, but against Desert Marshal, pretty happy to stare one of those down.
Yeah, and it's also just an earlier threat than GHP's deck can really put down. He's got this Diogo, which really blocks it very unfavorably. Like, not until he plays the Iron Throne, which he doesn't even have Second Justice, does he have anything that even trades with it.
Yep. False Prince is one of it's one of the reasons why Elysian has in the past had nice matchups against Cambrai. Is Cambrai is relying on Cambrai healer or Cambrai based decks, right? Cambrai healer and Seraph to block, and False Prince just laughs at them and runs right through them. And we're seeing that here as False Prince chunks in for 5 damage and doesn't opt to let the snake get in just yet.
Yeah, GHP does have Torch in his list, but he probably took them out because the only reasonable target is False Prince. Like, killing a Sand Viper or an Amber Acolyte or whatever is not particularly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Something I just totally blanked on, forgot to talk about. LettersWords has Dawnwalkers in his list, and GHP does not. And I think that gives LettersWords a pretty big advantage when you're grinding out these mid-range unit.
That's also another really good reason to take out Harshful, right? But here we're going to see a Dawnwalker probably get Zenith Initiation, bump it up to 5 attack, but looks like he doesn't want to do that. Save Initiation maybe for something bigger. And yeah, Heart of the Vaults are going to get exchanged here for it looks like a while, as NotoriousGHP sees he's going to draw one of his own. So we're about to see a lot of 6/6s come down on this board.
Yeah, I think next turn GHP or LettersWords might be able to Zenith Initiation and have a 7/7 heart that will kill GHP's heart, and that's going to be really rough for GHP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so notably there, the free torch causing some pauses that LettersWords might have picked up on it. Man, a free cost find the way, gonna find 2 more justice sources.
Yeah, it was going to be really rough for him. I was going to say, I was about to bring up that GHP was still stuck on 1 justice. He couldn't cast Iron Thorn, let alone leave a witness. But getting the find the way there fixes all of those problems.
So we were talking about how awesome, Dawnwalker and False Prince can be. They get a lot worse once your opponent has multiple units that are just way bigger than them on the board. And we're going to see that come to light here.
True, but there is the leave a witness, right? And they're very good against that. So if he can force the leave a witness out from Notorious, he's going to be able to go kind of wide with the Dawnwalkers.
Yep. So LettersWords, hoping the coast is clear, tries to use a 7/7 to eat a 6/6, and it does that. It just also runs into a torch and dies itself. So LettersWords left with not having the largest unit on board, and instead is looking down this big 6/6 and probably hoping to just draw an obelisk soon.
Yeah, and Iron Thorn is actually super good here because it makes this board stall way scarier for LettersWords, because now NotoriousGHP just in a few turns has the inevitability of just clearing the board and swinging for lethal. It's kind of like a very slow crystallize.
Yeah, it's a crystallize attached to a 5/5 body, but it looks like LettersWords here finds a permafrost, gets the 6/6 out of the way, try and clear the way for these 5/5s, and gets a bird out of the deal. Not a terrible trade if you're in LettersWords position.
No, not at all. And now he's pretty wide on the board, so this leave a witness might have to come down pretty soon. I mean, Heart of the Vault's pretty good here.
Yeah, now if you're LettersWords, you're just gonna probably ace space here and see what you can clean up, or maybe not swing with the 2/1 and 1/2 just to make sure you can try and finish off this Martial Ironthorn. But either way, the swing's coming in, gonna get some aggression down.
But that's gonna mean that LettersWords is gonna be playing off the top of his deck. With after a leave a witness comes down, and I mean leave a witness is gonna do, it's just gonna be harsh rule. It's gonna be 7 cost harsh rule because all he's gonna have left is a permafrosted Heart of the Vault, but still.
Yeah, but at the same time, you warped in a Heart of the Vault. It's not like you were giving up cards, and now you're still forcing your opponent to leave a witness, and you have double Dawnwalker. So, like NotoriousGHP is, I was going to say drawing off the top of his deck, but Martial Ironthorn shows up, and he can Ironthorn plus power plus leave a witness, right?
Yeah, I think so. That puts him at 13, which is enough for that play.
Ironthorn plus leave a witness showing off its strength here. And that means if NotoriousGHP finds another power, he can just activate Ironthorn and clear the board again. So LettersWords really needs to find something here.
Yeah, and LettersWords reaching for the emote.
Yeah.
He finds it. And now he's just drawing power. Both players just drawing power, but that means now he's at GHP is at 15 power. So anything that LettersWords plays is just going to get ulted by Ironthorn. And GHP just he has the last board. He left the witness in the destruction.
Crucially here, LettersWords, this is a tale of different removal suites, right? When you're in Justice, you have stuff like Vanquish. When you're in Primal Time Fire, you've got stuff like Zenith Initiation, Torch, and Permafrost, and that's just not solving the problem of this board that LettersWords is looking at.
Yeah, I mean, you get Cerso and Crystallize, but ultimately GHP just got more card advantage, and Iron Thorn is arguably a little more powerful than what Cerso brings,
Mhm.
especially now that he's at 15 power. So he just has to play out this Cerso and get it ultimated. Because I mean, he doesn't have stand together or protect or anything. He's like, even if he had backlash in the list, it's a unit ability.
Whew. Xenon Initiation here as well, but Notorious GHP doesn't need that. Just going to use Iron Thorn to clear the board and keep going. It is important to know that LettersWords drew a lot more power than GHP. GHP might have more power in play. That's due to Iron Thorn. If I'm LettersWords, I would just warp in the Mage first before playing the Titan. You never know if there's another warp on top, but ultimately it doesn't matter. But hey, he's got a board back here. We've got a game again.
Oh
Not
man,
anymore.
that is Seraph. That is a Seraph at 15 power.
He had lethal if he just, initiated the Seraph, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a cantrip off Seraph into
Banquet.
into it and finds
Clearly.
lethal that way anyway, so who cares?
And that's 1-1 for the players here.
Oh,
so yeah, so I think game 3 is going to be pretty interesting because this matchup has a lot of play to it.
Yeah, the play seems to be just play Heart of the Vault and then play more awesome big stuff. But yeah, the big units, it's not as simple as you think. There's some weird math going on here. Do you think there's going to be any adjustments in terms of sideboarding here? It looked like GHP's plan worked out pretty well there. Leave a Witness was awesome.
Yeah, I think his plan worked out pretty well. I'm pretty sure he probably brought in the extra Shatterglass Mage just because of the extra Diogo, just because of how good they could be in the matchup, especially Obelisk for Shatterglass Mage on LettersWords side. As far as LettersWords go, I wonder if he brings in Rain of Frogs. Like, is this matchup slow enough? Like, is just taking out all of his Iron Thorns or Titans or whatever, is that good enough?
I think LettersWords just needs to be so focused on getting control of the board early that you can't really afford to play something like Rain of Frogs here, where it's just like this 4-cost, 0 impact on the board. Yeah, taking out a big beefy unit is nice, but the decks are kind of so redundant that I don't know if it really matters.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. But okay, so I think the biggest difference last game from game 1 was Obelisk not being in LettersWords' hand at all, not seeing it at all, which was what gave LettersWords control of the board, just because his big beefy dudes were bigger and beefier. And now we see a hand where he's got 2 Obelisks.
Yeah, double Obelisk is nice. 2 depleted power, not so nice. So LettersWords hoping to find more power to help curve out and get the pressure. We'll see if Sand Viper does more this game than it did last time. Might end up maybe eating this torch that's hanging out in Notorious GHP's hand.
Yeah, I wonder if Sand Viper not really contributing to the more aggressive strategy that I think LettersWords wants to go to, and those kind of cards.
Oh no, yeah. Not only does LettersWords miss on power there, but knows that he's going to miss on power the next turn with that Shattered Glass Mage hanging out on top of the deck, and that is not a good sight to see.
Yeah, that's just the feels bad. So he's really far behind now in not necessarily tempo, because he's got a 1-2 in play, but as far as developing, going further into the game, GHP is on track to play Iron Thorn potentially if he draws more power, and we've seen how he can close in the late game compared to LettersWords.
Yep. So GHP gonna torch the 1/1 flyer, silence the 1/2, seeing his opponent stuck on 2 power, maybe trying to turn the tables here and be the aggressor rather than the defender that he's used to being in this matchup. And yep, slams the Parliament and hopes to just beat down with a bird before LettersWords can really muster a response.
Yeah, a depleted seat is pretty rough for his LettersWords because he still can't even play the Amber Acolytes. Also, I think torching and getting rid of the Sand Viper is a good play on GHP's part, just because it makes it more difficult for LettersWords to draw out of his situation, getting rid of the Friendly Wisp. And then just removing the Sand Viper now means that he can push the aggression later once he starts drawing his big ground beaters.
Yep. So LettersWords finally gets one of these acolytes out of hand, gets a little bit of power, but is real far behind here. Probably going to try and lean on this Sandstorm Titan to stabilize, unless he wants to go and play another acolyte here. And yeah, goes with that route, and it's not going to be happy with the result.
Yeah, LettersWords, he has the cards in his hand that he needed to win the game, but he didn't get the board that he needed out early.
Yeah, and now these mid-range decks showing off their flexibility. Just because we labeled Notorious GHP's deck as the control deck doesn't mean it's not filled with a bunch of large units that can kill your opponent if they stumble, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, exactly. And once he takes out the harsh rules, like the speed of the decks are pretty comparable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you said, LettersWords' biggest advantage in this matchup is going something like False Prince into Obelisk and hoping they can't deal with that. And that LettersWords had the Obelisk, as we mentioned, but also only had 2 power, and stumbling out of the gates is just putting him really far behind here. And it's going to be tough for him to catch back up. He doesn't have anything like Leave a Witness in deck to swing the board back in his favor.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier how good Dawnwalker potentially is in this matchup when you're grinding stuff out. But Seraph is pretty good in grinding matchups as well.
Oh yeah, Seraph's not a bad deal at all. It looks like, okay, the attack's coming in. LettersWords opting to take 7, go to 6, and hoping to draw something real sweet off this Wisp, although it's unlikely to end up really having any. In the meantime, GHP's searching up the Heart of the Vault, because that's a great card.
Yeah, Heart of the Rise is actually pretty good I mean, obviously Rise is a very good card for a number of reasons, but in a deck that doesn't have card advantage, that's trying to grind out the late game, being able to Rise for Heart of the Vault sort of negates the tempo, or it's good card advantage is more what I meant. It's definitely a tempo negative, but it's still good card advantage for a deck that otherwise can't really draw cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little odd seeing Rise in a deck that has 0 weapons. Like, it's really just a creature utility toolbox, and we've seen it plenty before, being able to get Desert Marshal or Icaria, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of Heart of the Vault decks wish they could play more than 4 Heart of the Vaults, and Rise of the Challenge is a good way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. He does have the one Runehammer in the sideboard, but whether
Right.
that's in the main or not is up for debate. So this is really rough for LettersWords. Obviously,
He is dead. That's how rough it is.
He's just dead because he plays the Heart of the Vault. But I was gonna say, LettersWords' deck is just generally less equipped to come back from a losing scenario than GHP's deck. So once GHP had the game, it was gonna be really difficult. So the game's over now. We saw GHP take it over LettersWords, but in LettersWords' hand, he had double Obelisk and Crystallize. If at any point in that game he had just been able to curve out a little bit and play just like 1 or 2 good blockers, he would have had so much power on the board there.
Yeah. It was a good reverse sweep, I suppose, from Notorious GHP, being down 1-0 after that first game, but coming back strong post board on the back of leave a witness and some things like that. The extra vanquish showing off itself as well there. Well played to both players. Notorious GHP will be moving on to the 3-0 bracket, while LettersWords goes to 2-1, still very much alive to make top 8. There is no backup matches for this round, as I believe there's only 1 match outstanding, and that might be wrapping up now as well. Yeah, it looks like this whole round's done.
I would like to point out that X Kirby is currently 3-0.
3-0 is that's a good spot to be. I mean, no surprise after flexing his muscles last round as well. So yeah, wow, some names that we're pretty used to seeing in the 3-0 bracket, but a couple new ones as well. So we'll be back with round 4 coverage in just a moment, and maybe we'll see X Kirby again.
Maybe in top 8 you'll see some bad news.
Oh man, I would like that.